that's really good. I think that's enough on the Panthers. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I think we covered it.
We're good. We'll move on to the Saints. Same story. Give me your raw reaction to the Saints while I'm pulling up some stuff here.
In my head, I'm a lot harder on the Saints than what a lot of people are.
Yeah, I noticed your rankings.
And it bothers me, too, by saying that because I didn't think that much of Drew Brees for the past few years. I really didn't. I watched those games, and I knew in areas where he was holding them back. But I don't know if I'm a full-on believer in Jameis yet. I know he can throw the ball. I know he can sling it. But I also know, with that being said, he can keep both teams in the game a lot. They have a very good defense. I like their weapons. I will say this, though. Alvin Kamara, when it comes to a fantasy production and overall NFL production, was nowhere near the guy that he was with Brees off the field. Minimal usage. Minimal.
Well, I'll give you that. I think a lot of his production came from Michael Thomas not being there, and they really didn't. When Michael Thomas was down, Emmanuel Sanders, was in and out of the lineup. You had a situation where they didn't really have a lot of good depth of the wide receiver, and they still really don't, to be totally honest.
No, they don't.
They ended up relying on Alvin Kamara as your only weapon offensively, really. So yeah, I get what you're saying there, but I think a lot of his production really this year it came from the lack of a Michael Thomas more than anything, like his ridiculous fantasy stats, I guess is what I'm talking about. And I think that will continue even with Michael Thomas on the field because he is the second best option. Like they let go of Emmanuel Sanders. They didn't really replace him. And Emmanuel Sanders, he's been on 4 teams in 3 years for a reason, but he certainly was a capable number 2 when he was on the field. So I didn't have an issue with that at all.
If anyone wants an absolute stud of a sleeper, and I've been hearing amazing reviews from him out of camp, especially with the absence of Michael Thomas, is Marquez Callaway.
Yeah.
They're saying that Marquez Callaway at times has stepped up and really asserted himself into that X or wide receiver 1 role.
Nice.
Where I thought that he could grow into that at some point. Now, of course, Michael Thomas, we still got to see how all that drama unfolds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I'm also glad you pulled up the draft. I'm not a big fan of their draft. I don't think that they drafted that well.
Yeah, let's go there. I'll put that up now.
I trust Sean Payton a lot. I trust his ability to coach. I put him up there in the top 5 coaching tree to where as I view a Mike Tomlin who can take a step back year, I guess, where it's supposed to be a step back but still have a competitive product. I know this team is still going to be a competitive product. You still have Cam Jordan. You still have DeMario Davis and Marshawn Lattimore. It's Lattimore. Yeah. I don't know why I'm blank. Yeah, the way that you build the defense, that's what I like. They have it matched off all the levels right there. I'm just worried about this offense a lot. I really am.
Okay, so I think I can change your mind. Let's stick on the draft just for a second.
Yeah.
Peyton Turner was the shock of the first round. Really, there's always one. I know we did our live stream, and we did our live stream, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we want to get everybody. We do not want to not have a graphic because we're only doing the first round, right? So we did damn near 60 graphics for guys. Most of them went second, third round, but Peyton Turner was not on that list, and he was the only guy we didn't have a graphic for. The weirdest part was the fact that you had Jason Owe go to the Ravens 31. You had Joe Tryon go to the Bucks, both of which are killing it.
Names that we had heard,
bigger names in the same position that I think were far and away the better prospect. Look, they look at their own thing. They're supposed to be smarter than us, and certainly probably are. So I say probably. Like, what kind of ego is that? But yeah, so whatever. That was a weird one. Pete Werner, a little bit of a surprise in the second. Although I guess, when you get into the late second, you're kind of splitting hairs a little bit. I thought Paulson Adebo, he was the guy I thought would go in the second. Out of Stanford, that was probably I thought their best pick and a big need. If he could step up, that would be huge for them because they don't really have a proven commodity opposite Lattimore.
Outside of Lattimore, it gets ugly quick and they lost a lot.
And Lattimore really has not performed as well as we'd like to say. It has not been as pretty as it was his rookie year. His rookie year was ridiculous. Yeah. It's dropped off since then, and for whatever reason. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Let me try and change your mind. Obviously, Drew Brees retires. Listen, over the last 2 seasons, they're 8-1 without Drew Brees. Sean Payton, you really look at
That's why he's up there.
Yeah, they were one of the healthier teams in the NFL, and I was kind of surprised by that. I think they had a pretty healthy season overall, but they lost at key positions like wide receiver, quarterback, and I mean those were big pieces to lose, especially when Michael Thomas is your kind of all your passing offense at the wide receiver position. They lost those pieces, and Sean Payton was still able to produce. I thought, you look at Jameis Winston, he did come in and perform well that one game. And then obviously they gave the reins over to Taysom, but that was because Sean Payton had made a promise to Taysom that if something like that had happened,
get his opportunity.
He would get this. Yeah. So that that was something I don't think we were aware of. I remember that offseason being on this pod, or excuse me, that week after Drew Brees got hurt, being on this pod and saying there's no way they start Taysom. It's got to be Jameis. They're holding their cards close to their chest just to mess with him. And I was totally wrong. Taysom goes 4-1 though. In 4 games without Drew Brees.
They were not pretty games, though.
Okay, and I get that, but a lot of that I do think is Taysom. I think this can be a team. This could be a team that does both quarterbacks, like significantly more than we've ever really seen in the NFL before. Sean Payton, to me, is enough to like with the overall team that they have offensively. They do have some good weapons. They still have a great offensive line, which is a big piece of it. And defensively, we're going to talk about some of their losses. I am certainly questioning it, and I do think they have a worse year than they did last year. But Sean Payton, to me, is worth enough wins that he's going to figure out with Jameis and with Taysom. And I do think they have the infrastructure on that offense to. And also, I mean, we've had Taysom. He's had Taysom as a backup for a long time. He's been tinkering with play calls when Drew Brees retires for a long time and schemes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's known the end's been in sight.
Yeah, I do think there's a plan in place that's been in place for more than just this offseason a little bit. I'm actually kind of excited to see how the Saints team works. I understand it's kind of a gamble for me to say, like, just looking at key numbers, I have them at 11-6. You have them at 8-9.
It's hard to imagine 11 with the quarterback change.
Yeah, I have them at 11. I feel good about it. I really do. I feel good about 10 or more. I feel they do definitely hit double digits. They're just too good of a football team, top to bottom.
Overall, they are. And when you add in the coach, yes. And that's the thing. Whenever I was doing the wins and losses, I know all of the crap that I have talked about Drew Brees and all of his legacy and as good as he has been. I'm happy as a Vikings fan whenever we've faced him in the playoffs, as it's the past few times, because his inability to push the ball down the field is one of the main reasons that we're able to stay in. A lot of other teams, for that matter, are able to stay in games. So, I would think that losing Brees and adding Winston, we're 2 years removed from Winston leading the league in passing yards. Give it that, yes, he had the other stat to go along with it. I think it was close to 40 interceptions.
It was 30. It was 30.
30? Okay.
Exactly
so
30,
a little bit, 30. That's
33
that's
touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
That's a lot, but still was able to do that.
Yeah, so I say all that, and then I do have some stats to back it up here. First of all, you did mention it wasn't pretty with Taysom Hill. You're absolutely right. They scored 24 fewer points in 3 of those 4 games. So and you look at the 13 games that Brees started last year, they only did that 11. They scored more than 24 points 11 times.
That's electric.
So that tells you the difference in what their offense is able to produce. But also, he is coming in mid-season. I think there's certainly some holes you can poke in that stat, but it's enough to say, it was not as pretty as it was with Drew Brees. I'm not sitting here saying that Taysom Hill's a star. I don't think he is the star. I think he's a really, really, unique piece that you can put in 5. I'll say as many as 5 to 10 plays a game for different reasons at quarterback position. I do think Jameis Winston is the starter. Jameis Winston still does have a lot of talent. I will say, you look at Jameis Winston. Let's talk about interception rate. He was 54th out of 57 over the last 5 years in interception rate with a minimum of 400 attempts.
Gunslinger mentality.
Yeah, exactly. 3.61% interception rate. That's really high. Drew Brees, 1.5, ninth in the NFL over the past 5 years. So that just shows you like what they're used to. The Saints don't throw interceptions. Like that's not really like that. That's not what you want to see.
They're a very efficient team.
Exactly. And, yeah, absolutely. And so I absolutely get what you're saying. To me, and this is a hot take, and this is going to go a little bit off of how we usually do this, but I was thinking about this when I was doing the research, and I want to bring it up to you and see what you thought. The Saints and the Ravens feel similar to me for one reason. Like they just feel like the team that they're gonna get to the playoffs. They're gonna be a pain in the ass in the regular season. They're probably gonna win 10 games, but then they're gonna get to the playoffs, play a team that is has the Jimmy and Joes, I guess, from a talent perspective, and lose first, second, third round of the playoffs.
That's fair. I put the Ravens ahead of the Saints. So if I were to rank it in like a hierarchy, I do think that the Ravens, while they may not be, I guess, cemented Super Bowl threats, I keep the Saints out. I have the Saints out.
Okay, so what I'm saying,
I think that there's a world where the Saints miss the playoffs.
See, and I get, well, yeah, you put them 8-9,
Yeah.
you think they're going to miss the playoffs,
Yep.
I guess. Yeah, no, and I guess what I'm saying is, like, with the Ravens specifically, you have the Lamar Jackson and all these things and the way they play, and it just, you absolutely destroy the average to bad teams in the NFL, and you beat the good teams too from time to time. But I feel like they get to the playoffs and they face a team that has the speed at linebacker to at least contain Lamar at times. They have
There's a method to the shutdown of both of them.
They have the front seven to make it really difficult for the Ravens, and they end up losing. Like, they lost to the Titans 2 years ago in the playoffs. They lost last year. I don't remember who they played, but they lost to somebody. So
Buffalo, right?
I think it was Buffalo. Yeah. So, and again, that's kind of the same thing. I feel like you play one of the elite teams. Like, I don't know. That's just, to me, there's a connection there. And yeah, I'm still higher on the Saints as a team that is still going to be competitive this year. I think they're going to surprise some people.
You surprised me with that by saying that the Saints are still going to be good, and I know how high you are on the Carolina Panthers. So, like, I thought if you were going to rank the division for me, you would go Buccaneers, Panthers, Saints, Falcons. But right now, you're Buccaneers, Saints, Panthers.
Yeah, I'm totally. Yeah,
I would be the other.
Yeah.
It would sound like it would be the other way though, because you like the Panthers a lot.
Yeah, I do like the Panthers a lot. I have the Bucks winning the same amount of games as the Saints, though.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I do. I have them winning 11 games too.
Oh my God! Okay, can we close the book on the Saints? Are we done? Can we get to that book?
We're not done. We got to talk about the free agency.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, totally.
You're gonna shit on me.
I'm paying attention.
All right, so we're gonna talk about some big losses. Defensive line, lose Trey Hendrickson, lose Malcolm lose Malcolm Brown. These were guys that had a lot of snaps last year, and then obviously Janoris Jenkins was a big loss. This is an old graphic. Kwan Alexander actually came back in free agency, so that just happened fairly recently. So he is back, but certainly some big losses that doesn't feel like they replaced in free agency because they couldn't. They had a really tight free agency.
Their books were
tight. Yeah, and Drew Brees is a big part of that. They're gonna be able to let that go in a couple of years, or I would think by next year. It's gonna be the same thing as the Patriots. Like, the Patriots had no money the year that Tom Brady left last year, and like they really couldn't do anything. They had a bad football team, still able to win 7 games. I would argue that was a feat for the roster they had. And then this year they had all the money in the world. They spent the most of free agency. They were able to get that off the books. Exactly. So I think that'll be a similar thing for the Saints, and the Saints are going to have to ride the storm, but they do have a better team in general, I think.